seems like the moment that at least we have been waiting for a long moment. My name is Frodo van Oostveen. I'm the director of World Waternet. I think we have an exciting program for you with even the winner later on of the Sarphati Sanitation Challenge. Interesting mix of speakers. So let me begin. So welcome. Oh, sorry. Can we go one back? To test if the slides work as well. I think. Scaling innovative solutions to accelerate access to safe sanitation. I think also for me personally, by working for World Waternet, the sanitation challenge has always been a bit less on my agenda, to be fairly honest. I think therefore, the last months have been a roller coaster also in my personal education path to increase the awareness of Sarphati. We have an exciting program from the last 6 months, but I think the best is yet to come. This is not the finish, this is the starting point. And the winner that you will later see is the sort of online contribution to that. But I think we all need you, because I think that's my appeal to the group here. If we can go to the next slide. Then we will start with Sarphati, Sarphati Sanitation Challenge. I think it's unique to be in Amsterdam together, and I'm very honored that the Vice Mayor, Egbert de Vries, will share a little bit more about who is Sarphati and the importance of sanitation as well. Then I will be with my co-host for today, Leandra, working for Aqua for All. We will sort of go through the interesting statements of our speakers. You will see the speakers here. They are sort of gathered together here. I will sort of later I will do the introduction. And then we have a panel discussion, and then we wrap it up within 1 hour. If there are any questions or so, let me know. But then I think the moment is there to start. And it's for me a big honor to invite the Vice Mayor of Amsterdam, Egbert de Vries, to be on stage here and to explain a little bit more about this gentleman. There are even books about him, as Mr. Sarphati. So he is something, and I hope you can share that message with us as well. So can we?
Yeah, thank you very much, Frodo, for this kind introduction, and thank you very much for joining this session in the Amsterdam International Water Week. First of all, we as the City of Amsterdam are very proud that the International Water Week is hosted by Amsterdam for a long time already. It's been one of the successive meetings each 2 years, coming together from all over the world, having the exposition of all the different innovations, technical innovations, social innovations around the whole theme of water. We are proud that we can be the host of that as a city. But we're also proud that you bring things to us. You bring your innovations, you bring your ideas, your new technologies. We are offering the platform to bring this all together. Finally, for the first time in a very long time, also everybody actually coming together and not on screens. This is a big achievement. Because I think, Frodo, you were one of the persons, just like me, starting to work in a world of screens and not meeting people in person in one room. We're changing that now, and it's a big relief, I think, for most of us. We hope we can continue like that. So, Amsterdam is obviously based on water. It's surrounded by water. It was a swamp and then created into a city. It needs to stay safe from water every day by water systems that surrounds us, dikes, pumps, to make it sure that Amsterdam is continuing. So we are very well aware of all of the themes connected to water, including sanitation. And this gentleman, Mr. Samuel Sarphati, has been very important because he introduced proper sanitation hygiene to the city of Amsterdam. He was a trained medical professionist, but he also was very active in city government. He was an entrepreneur, and he was creative. So he embodies everything that Amsterdam stands for. Amsterdam is a very political town, very militant, very active. Amsterdam is a creative town. We have a lot of artists, but also creative people that set up enterprises. And we're an entrepreneurial town. We're the town of the shareholders. Everybody's a shareholder nowadays, but shares were actually invented in the city of Amsterdam. We are also the inventors of international companies. The first international company ever was based in Amsterdam. So we are entrepreneurs, we are creative, and I try to be politically active. And everything that I'm saying is embodied in Mr. Sarphati, because he was politically active and he was social aware, because he knew cities could only thrive if basic needs were met, like hygiene. So he introduced a better sanitation system to the city of Amsterdam. His heritage is still used in our big company Waternet. This is doing sewage systems and bringing all the our sewage water together and cleaning it, and then also regulating all of the canal systems that use that same water. So he should be the guy. He should be the person to embody the sanitation challenge. So I'm very proud that his name is on that tag. And I'm very proud that we can bring now together all of the ideas, all of the new things, all of the innovations, all of the challenges that you meet in terms of sanitation. Because we bring that together in this challenge, and I'm very interested who's going to win this time and who's going to present his project at this challenge this year.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Vice Mayor Egberts. Yeah, I think then it's time for, so thanks. I was already sort of a passionate person about Sarphati, but now I'm even more as in bringing sanitation to the higher level. So I'm very happy with that. As mentioned, World Waternet, Aqua, and also Accenture are the co-hosts of today. I'm very honored to do today together with Leandra of Aqua, and I would like to sort of ask you to guide us through the moment where we were here. I think in the past it was an award, and now it's a challenge. But how can we inspire people to bridge the gap and to make a difference on the world of sanitation? So, Leandra.
Thank you, Frode. Warm welcome also from my side and from Aqua for All side. My name is Leandra Roller. And yeah, I want to tell you a bit more about what have we been up to. So as we hear, Sarphati helped to get Amsterdam out of the sanitation problem, but worldwide there is still almost half of people don't have access to safe sanitation, and over 50% of wastewater enters the environment untreated. Now, that really calls for innovation. That calls for people that have a drive. And that's what we set out with the Sarphati Challenge, to find innovations and driven people. Sorry. So we decided, Sarphati used to be an award, but we said, how can we make it more reach enterprises better and have a longer lasting impact? So we transformed it into a challenge and invited Accenture to join us in this. We started out this year in May with the call for applications. Got 31 countries, enterprises from 31 countries applying overall, 81 applications that we screened through, selected 10 semifinalists. These 10 semifinalists started getting training from Accenture, and we presented them all at the World Water Week in August. That was very interesting. We had a jury there as well discussing the different trends in the sector. Looking at trends, there was a lot of container-based sanitation, a lot of decentralized solutions, innovation in business models, but also in data and technology. And then after this discussion at the World Water Week, we had the jury select 5 finalists. The 5 finalists had another month to prepare a bit better, and then finally pitched, this is our jury, pitched to the jury who selected the winner 2 weeks ago. And then yesterday it wasn't an easy discussion, of course, but then yesterday we launched, told the world about who we thought should win the Sarphati Sanitation Challenge this year, which is Aqua. We're gonna see a short video in a second about who Aqua is and what they're doing. They provide on-site sanitation treatment, so on-site toilet treatment through a compostable bag. And I think we'll play the video to see a bit more.
Leandro, this is your moment to feel the silence.
Okay, then let me tell you about this.
That was a joke, but
Maybe again.
but no.
I don't know, but I think we also have Akia's live with us. Maybe we can just ask Bara to give us a short pitch on it.
I think it's better. Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Teams, yeah.
Teams, yeah.
So, yeah.
Hey, Bara. Give it back to you for
Yeah.
Well, we can do it together.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. I hope your day is going well. So, in a nutshell, what we do is we have a bag. And all okay?
Yeah.
All good? I can't hear you. There is no voice from my side.
Acting here, so sorry for that.
He can hear you now.
Yeah?
Okay, it's back. It's back.
Okay, no, sorry, but congratulations from everybody here in Amsterdam. Good to see you, good to finally see you. I think yesterday we saw you online, so I'm very curious later to hear how the day after is. How's the feeling after a night of sleep? But first, maybe if you can share the audience a little bit about your great innovation. Thanks.
Much appreciated. We work on 3 different layers. To start with, sanitation is not an easy problem to handle. The population who uses sanitation, which is every one of us, either is a wiper or a washer. And we have noticed that the washer population, the dry toilet never worked with them. And simply because that all the cleansing water goes to the fecal sludge chamber. Having that in mind, we started developing a product that provides on-site treatment, regardless of the type of user you have. Is he a washer or a wiper? So we developed a powder mix that disinfects a pathogen from the fecal waste. At the same time, we provide a containment to prevent any kind of cross-contamination or vector attraction. And what we had in mind, the most important part, that the only way to help in offsetting the sanitation cost, that the byproduct should be recyclable. There should be a way to upcycle it and sell it at any cost, so we can decrease the cost. So we ended up designing a system that is composed of 3 different components: a powder, a pan, and a bag. Each of them can be used alone, but when you put them all together, you end up with a really nice a product that can serve as a turnkey solution for non-sewered area. So I think this is the simplest way I can put it in brief.
Great, thanks. So with winning the prize, what is the first thing you are sort of planning to do? What's the next step? What brings this, what you otherwise couldn't do?
Well, this year, like between the COVID and the challenges that put us on back, like we launched a third pilot in Jordan earlier this year, but it was limited almost to 200 users a day. And we launched it in the Zaatari camp. Our goal for the next year is to scale up and work on Global South, mainly in Bangladesh and India. And having the award, first of all, will help us to co-finance this pilot. And second, there is always place to learn. Like, honestly, I can say it in a very simple way. Everything can go wrong, and the first 3 pilots went wrong. We learned a lot. And I think in the current year, many things will go wrong, and we will learn. Yeah. But we hope by the end of the coming year, we will have a ready product that can be commercialized at affordable price and can make a difference and an impact in people's life.
Wonderful. Yeah. And we are trying to explain what the Sarphati Sanitation Challenge is, but you experienced it. I joined 2 sessions online. Accenture was coaching you. I think they did a great job. What's the one thing that strikes you? What was sort of on the learning side? What should people know? What was your experience of the Sarphati Sanitation Challenge?
I think the sanitation problem is very complex. And it's not well-known science or career for many people, like even for us. When we were studying and designing the system, it was very hard to get to the right material and content. You have the basic science behind it, you have the marketing, you have the human-centered design approach. Like there's many different layers. I think the main feature or advantage that comes with the training is how to simplify and go like one step finish one thing at one step at one time, so you can move forward. I think just to make the road, to clarify the roadmap for us as a product designer, innovator.
Great. I have maybe I think two questions. One is a sort of a statement, at least from my side. World Waternet is also working in Jordan. So next week, a team of World Waternet is visiting Jordan. So I will definitely make the connection. I think it's a platform for sharing. Hopefully I can visit you soon as well to meet you in person. But already great that you're here joining live now. Then maybe the final thing, if there's one question, because I have a beautiful audience here, if there's one question to the room, is there something, what's your biggest need? Where can we additionally support you with? What's the question that keeps you awake at night?
I think I will ask my colleagues, Mandy and Sophia, to answer first.
So it's about teamwork.
They deserve this, yeah. Sophia?
So me first? I would say
I've one shot to make. I think there's one thing that keeps you awake, and then we need to move on. But if there's one thing that you would like to share with the group, that you said, this is what I need, this is important for me.
Building partnership.
Okay, wonderful.
Number one.
That's what we're going to do here for you together. So we have a nice audience here. We have a great sort of network together. So we would like to make the difference and bridge the gap for sanitation. So looking forward to support you on that. One more time, congratulations for being the first winner of the Sarphati Sanitation Challenge. And hopefully we meet soon in person.
Thank you, and likewise.
I think this is part of to improvise. Huh? Where are we in the program? Detail, huh? I would like to introduce the first speaker, Henk-Jan, working for Accenture. I think we started this journey, I would say, also because of you. Because I think there was the passion, the drive. I think there was already a longer conversation about utilities and the importance of that, but really to make it happen. I think your team did an amazing job to help us to structure a process, to get things moving, and to also invite a bigger network than we had ourselves. Because otherwise it's only we as the water sector talking to each other. You expanded our network, and I think that was sort of a game changer as well. So, Henk-Jan Tops, please join the floor here.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you, Frodo. And first of all, of course, congratulations to Aqua, the winner of this year. And also thanks to Aqua for All and World Waternet to ask us to partner up in this challenge and to transform the Sarphati Awards to a challenge, to really be forward-looking, future-oriented, and yeah, try to solve one of the world's biggest problems in sanitation. Yeah, so my name is Henk-Jan Top. I'm leading our water practice in the Netherlands and also linked to our global international network, and working closely with many water partners, I would say. So the partnership request from Aqua, it's a very nice request, had to see how we can bring the world together. And yeah, maybe as an opening statement, so what does the Sarphati Sanitation Challenge mean to me, to Accenture? Well, our purpose is to deliver on the promise of technology and human ingenuity. So that's the great ideas of people and technology to solve the world's biggest problems. And of course, sanitation is one of the world's biggest problems. And we cannot do it alone. We of course need the expertise of everyone in the world, and together with Aqua for All and World Waternet, I hope we had a first very good iteration on the challenge to have a winner, to take one next step in solving this sanitation challenge that we have together. So for that, thank you, Frodo, for the invitation, and looking forward also to the other speakers.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Then I would like to invite Alex Knezovic, if I say it correctly, who's the Director of Operations and Culture, I believe, within the Toilet Board Coalition. Thanks for being here in person, all the way from Geneva. So great that you're joining us. And just for my own inspirational learning curve about sanitation, I will share it here. But there are beautiful things about the Toilet Board Coalition with graphics and everything worthwhile checking out. So we will share it later as well.
Yes, and I have more in the bag
There's more
if
to
anyone
come,
wants
teaser,
fun toys,
sanitation
toys. So I'm Alex Knezovic. I'm the Director of Operations at the Toilet Board Coalition, and we were created to scale up private sector solutions to SDG 6. And we do that through bespoke mentoring and business strengthening programs. We have an accelerator program that has actually been working with ACIAS over the last year, providing them corporate mentorship and working with them on mapping out what is their pathway to scale. We're really proud to say that 93% of our graduates graduate the program with investment or a partnership with a multinational corporation to scale their solution. And that, for us, is what's needed right now in sanitation. We see at kind of our 30,000-foot view, we have about 70 different businesses in our coalition. We see that there are solutions that are working, and they're out there, but they're working in these little environments. And so how can we aggregate the learnings and scale through a multi-stakeholder platform or through accelerators? How can we scale those solutions and replicate them on a global level to accelerate our progress to SDG 6? So I'll stop there, and thank you.
Thanks a lot, Alex. I would like to invite the next speaker, Aart. He's the Managing Director of Sarphati. For me, a long time colleague, friend, we go way back. So it's for me an honor to have you here as a compliment also about your professionalism, entrepreneurship, and also your endurance, because it isn't easy. But therefore, I think an inspiration to share your lessons with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Frodo. So Aart van der Beukel, Managing Director of Sarphati, started 12 years ago. I think the first time we met was a few years later. And I think there's a slide. Yeah, perfect, fantastic. Yeah, I asked to present this. So we are, Sarphati is a utility company. We operate in Ghana at the moment, in Accra. Basically what we do, we collect fecal sludge for treatment, and we can do that in a very affordable way, working with government, working with industries, and I think that's part of the discussion we can have today. It's about the partnership with the public sector, but also the private sector. So in a nutshell, what we do is we collect waste streams, both fecal sludge and solid organic waste, that is processed by Sarphati, and we bring value to that. And by doing so, we can cover the cost of running the operations. And as you can see here as well, we sell the products to farmers, to the private sector, but also we have a close cooperation with the government. And that is also, I think, the complexity of the work that we have been doing. So like Akias was saying, there's a lot of challenges that you can have in the process. There's a lot of endurance required. And on the one hand, it's about technology, but it's also about the partnerships. How do you work together with governments that sometimes don't even know how to solve a problem? Finance is only one problem, but it's also about understanding each other, partnerships, etc. So it's complex, but we've been going through a good process, I think, where we are continuously learning, also working with Aqua for All. And so there's also a financial part, but also, like I said, the partnerships and to become smarter. Let me stop here for a moment. We can talk later.
Thanks a lot. Next, I would like to invite Anke Verheij as Deputy Program Coordinator Waterworks. Great to have you here. Waterworks is the international program in which the Dutch utilities work together. And great if you can share your thoughts on the sanitation challenge.
Yes, thank you, Frodo. Indeed, the Waterworks program is the program of all 10 Dutch water utilities, the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and about 40 water utilities in Africa and Asia. Of these 40, also about half of them are also responsible for sanitation. And of these half, also half of them are actively involved in sanitation. Some of them, they have the word sanitation in their name, but are not actually active yet when it comes to sanitation. In the Waterworks program, we work with water operator partnerships, which are partnerships between Dutch utilities and utilities abroad. And also the Dutch utilities are, besides Waternet, not responsible for sanitation. So in these peer-to-peer partnerships, it's sometimes difficult for us to provide knowledge and expertise on this topic. So for us, it's very important to learn from all the experiences that are there, to learn from the private sector. Because in general, we see that more and more of our partner utilities are becoming more responsible for sanitation, and they want to do, they want to do more. But a business case is very important, and we have some experiences with this. For example, in Kenya, in Nakuru, where our partner water utility set up a subsidiary company, and that was called, where they're making briquettes from human waste. So that's one of the examples that we have, but we are looking forward to, in the second phase of the Waterworks program, which starts next year, to do more on sanitation.
Wonderful, thanks a lot. Then I would like to invite the last but not least Arno Keizer, working for Aqua for All. And I think we heard about innovation, entrepreneurship, but finance, business cases is probably one of the mix of solutions. So can you share your thoughts related to sanitation on that? Yes. Arno, thanks.
Thank you, Frodo, Alejandra. I also have a slide prepared for my part. Maybe you can put it on. So I'm Arno Keizer. I'm the Innovative Finance Manager at Aqua for All. And at Aqua for All, our role is really to address the funding gap and also provide catalytic financial instruments to bridge that gap. And as you can see, there's insufficient public funding, and the funds required are approximately 114 billion US dollar. And there's only available donor funding of around 5 billion on an annual basis. So there is capital needed from private sources, such as impact investors or financial institutions. And our role is really to liaise with them and also develop funding solutions that can really bridge that gap. So with this, I refer to blended finance. And that's really what we are trying to do. So besides working together with SMEs, such as during the Sarphati challenge and building capacity on that level, we also try to work together with financial institutions and FIs and impact investors. So when we, for example, work together with an impact investor such as Actiam, we develop a social impact bond where we provide interest rate discounts so that the FIs are more stimulated to actually on-lend to households who will, again, build sanitation solutions such as toilets, etc. So our role is really to be catalytic in that sense. And it's quite a challenge because we try to strengthen it across the value chain. So we try not only to look at what the impact investor needs for de-risking, for example, but we also try to see what enterprises need more on a technical assistant basis. So how they can become financially attractive for banks or become financially attractive for impact investors. So this is a bit in a nutshell where my role comes in, and I'm happy to share solutions I've worked on or developed during this panel discussion.
Thanks a lot. Now we start with the panel discussion, and I will hand it over to Leandra, if this for everything the first time. So,
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. No, I'll give this directly to Henk-Jan. Welcome, dear panelists. I'm happy to have you all seated here. I hope you're sitting comfortably. I'm glad to get started with some more questions. Thanks already for all the nice input statements that you gave. I'd like to have this discussion a bit about scaling private sanitation enterprises, but a lot also about public-private collaboration and finance, not least of all of it. So I think let's dive right into it. And Henk-Jan, I'd like to start with you. Since also this whole Sarphati Sanitation Challenge also started with Accenture being involved. Sorry for that. Looking at the scaling pathway of sanitation enterprises, you've seen some of them now with the challenge. Where do you think a challenge like this and acceleration support, like given from Accenture, how does that all come together?
Yeah, I think if you look at the challenge and how that all comes together, and we had, of course, a good debate in the beginning of the challenge. So what is it that we are looking for? And we're looking for solutions to be able to scale. So we opened up, I would say, for the whole world to participate, regardless if they are startups, if they are starting with, I mean, they did have to have a good idea that was already put into practice to some extent, but also for established companies, right? And then it's how do you find solutions that are scalable? And there are also, let's say, local localization aspects that you need to take into account. So not all solutions are scalable everywhere. So how do you find these solutions? And how do you mix them and partner them, like Akias is saying, how do you partner them up with the right stakeholders? And that's, I think, what we've tried to do with this program. And I think if you look at the winner and also the next steps for the winner, there is some clear steps with partnering with Aqua for All, with partnering with World Waternet, and also the continued support that we give in coaching the winner. So I think that's an example on, what I say, one by one, trying to see how we can scale this.
Nice, nice. Since you're also working a bit more in other public sectors, can you make a comparison of where the sanitation sector can maybe learn from other sectors? What are we doing differently?
Well, I think that's a really interesting question, right? Because we use some of the ideas that we have in challenges, innovation challenges that we do to a bigger extent as well. And I think maybe one thing that did stand out, and I received this directly from the team, is they saw a lot of purpose and drive from all the participants, more so than we see in typical challenges that we run. So I think that's a big compliment to all the participants. And well, where you could learn, and I mean, it's easier said than done, right? This is one of the world's biggest problems that doesn't have too much attention yet. I mean, we're working on that together, also in the Amsterdam International Water Week, of course. And also, it's let's say a model that's difficult to be able to scale in, because on the one hand, we all think it's a service that we should be able to take for granted, but we cannot take it for granted. And who are then, let's say, the service providers who should be paying for this? Who are the end users? And is there a model where there can be paid for this? So I think it's the quest for this model. I think there were some examples here as well. I mean, there's a much bigger need than current investment available for this domain. And how do we find these models? And I would say, try to look at how do models work in other markets, other public-private partnerships, and learn from those models.
Nice. I think that's a good starting point. And I'd like to ask Art and Alex to reflect a bit on, you hear already what he's saying, where he sees some challenges and what we can see from other sectors. Looking at what an accelerator can do, and I'm looking at you, Alex, and maybe also at you, Art, to reflect on it, if you really think this is what needed. What can accelerators do to work on finding these models and to establish those scaling trajectories?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Leandra. So this is a wonderful sort of nostalgic moment as well, because Sarphati Sana was a part of our 2017 accelerator cohort, which feels way back when now, and it's grown a lot since then. But we can see, working with about 50 business sanitation enterprises now over the last 5 years, we see a handful of business models. And of course, across each of those, there are optimizations that can be transferred. There's geographical nuance, most certainly, and cultural nuance, but there are so many partnership opportunities. And I think one of the most wonderful parts of what we get to do with the coalition is to make those connections and to help catalyze that replication and that scale. And not just between social enterprises, but also, or startups, or sort of whatever the preferred term is, but from the private sector, from the development sector as well, and building those PPPs and multi-stakeholder collaborations in a way that then they can be replicated. And Frodo, you're very kind in terms of our graphics and communications, but it's a huge part of what we do, because if it's only happening in one place, we're not doing our job. We need to be looking at how we can get these solutions and what is working, get that to a wider audience outside of WASH, also very important. How are we communicating with the agriculture sector, the energy, global health, gender? Sanitation connects to everything. It's foundational to our lives and to ecosystems and to economies. So how do we integrate our solutions into the wider conversation?
Yeah. Okay, good, thanks. How do I make that link? Eh? So yeah, indeed. So I think the thing about the partnership with Toilet Board at the time was also to make the connection between us as a startup and the bigger world, the corporate world. But specifically, we were linked to Unilever to look at the food processing part, etc. Because as you have seen in the slide before, we want to make that link to the industries in the back. That was a challenge, because we are very small and they are very big. So we were trying to find the smart ways how to work together. And I think more and more what we've seen even after that is that the corporates are under pressure a lot. So they have issues with energy. They have to use green energy. They have to be energy neutral by 2030. So we've been speaking to more companies now, and it's growing actually. So I think for us, I mean, when we started, it was first about developing your technology to make that work, and to work in a local market and to make it work there. And that's not even talking how do you sell your concept to government somewhere else. It's just to make it work locally. And that alone is quite complex, because you have to build local teams, because I don't think it makes sense to bring in a big group of expats that basically run the show there. It has to be done locally. So these are kind of basic challenges that I think Accenture can also help with. So making that connection to firstly the industries, for us now seems to be the best, not the way out, but the best way forward. And then once that is successful, governments, making the link to a government is then coming automatically. Because they see, because we are working with the big corporates, we can lower the cost even more, and then it becomes more accessible for the governments. So I think making those connections is finding the right balance is complex, but I think we are getting there gradually.
Yeah, I like how collaboration is coming stronger and stronger already, and I'd like to look at a different aspect of collaboration next, which is public-private collaborations. Anke, you come from the waterworks, more from the public side of sanitation. You have mentioned that sanitation hasn't been so strong, but maybe you can tell us still a little bit on where you see the strengths and challenges. And we've heard from the private sector, maybe more from the public sector perspective, and where you see a potential for collaboration to complement between private and public sector.
Yeah. Those are a lot of questions. Which,
yeah. Sorry.
I'll start with the challenges. Well, as I said, we have about 20 partner utilities that are involved in sanitation, and what they do, it ranges from off-site sanitation to collecting a sanitation fee on top of the water bill. So there's a large range in what they do when it comes to sanitation. And some of the challenges are that, for example, they are newly responsible for sanitation. It's included in their mandate, but there's no plan yet, no capacity. So there's really a need to, for capacity building, training, making it part of their strategies. It's often not included in the strategic plan, in the business plan. So that's something that we are providing support with. Another challenge is that it often also includes large investments, while this funding is not available. There are also some of the partner utilities are a bit hesitant because they're afraid people are not willing to pay for the sanitation services, while for the water services they are. So that's why some are a bit less hesitant to start. When it comes to the opportunities, is that most of the utilities, they have a very large base of customers, and this fee, this sanitation fee, for example, can more easily be collected. Sometimes they are not responsible for sanitation themselves, they are responsible for collecting the fee, and then there's another public entity responsible for sanitation, and they can make use of this collected fees. Where I see a lot of potential for collaboration with the private sector is mainly when it comes to innovation, for sharing the opportunities that are there, and also showing that it can be a business case. And there, with providing support to the public sector, also, like I said, the trainings that are needed, I think there can be a really strong connection, or there's a possibility for PPPs. Another possibility for collaboration is also in terms of funding. That there's often not that much public funding available, while private investors are then more interesting. So these are a number of possibilities.
Nice. This is already going to towards my next question, which was going to be on can we get more resource recovery initiatives or innovations into the public sector. So, but what I'm hearing right now is we need acceleration not only for the private sector, but it seems like also for the public sector. There is some sort of need for exchange, and I'd love to ask you all what you think about how we can get these things together. This is a question that just on the top of my mind. If anybody feels like thinking about that, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I mentioned the industries as a very interesting opportunity, but already we've also been developing ideas how to work with the public sector, with the utilities. We've been in contact with Waterworks, the program, and also with Blue Deal, because they have already local representatives. They have the contact with the utilities, and we can be seen as a private entity. Oh, it's private. So I think it's good to have a player in the middle who can help facilitate, make it understand how recycling could work and how the business case could work. And how technology-wise, if we work together, how could we bring in cost reductions? We can't make a profit for them, but we can reduce their cost significantly. So I think that working with those kind of initiatives is super important. And also, one thing I wanted to mention is that for us, the first ambition is that we can reduce the cost of operating a system to zero. So by selling these byproducts, and that's looking at your operational cost, basically, including your maintenance cost. And if you even can't do that, then you have another big challenge. And only once you've done that, then you can look at how to invest and how to do your capex. So I think we also have to be a bit realistic in saying, we need to cover all the cost. What is the cost exactly like? And if you can't even reach your break-even point, there's no investor interested. So I think really understanding how the financials work in your business is already a complexity. It's doable, but it's also about the perception of the financing world on what they should look at.
Yeah, I'm always tempted to think separating the sanitation value chain, thinking about cost recovery. To me, it always seems as if the toilet construction as well as the transportation could potentially be recovered, while the treatment plant is a big challenge. And I guess this is usually where people would look to public investments. But I guess that's also the public needs to repay their finance. So I guess we need to come together and think about it together.
Yeah, so I mean, so one last thing there from my answer. So I think for your to cover your initial or your initial investment cost, you can either look at the public sector and say, listen, we can offer a service for treatment, but you need to pay X amount of euros per ton treated. Then we can do everything. We can do the operational costs, your investment, like a one-stop shop service, or you need to have a very profitable model, which is also possible if you have, for example, the industries involved who are willing to pay more for the energy, for their fuels. And that's the thing now we are investigating from both ends. But it's either way, I don't think there's a third way of doing it. Unless everything is a grant and you can get it subsidized, of course. That's a different story.
Lots of grants would be nice. Alex, could I ask you to reflect a bit on the positive collaborations that you have seen coming out of your cohorts? Was this all over the value chain? Was there specific parts where you see, okay, collaboration here really works and it's...
Yeah. So there's... in the infographic that I should have just put a slide of it, but the sanitation economy, we break it down into 3 sort of subsections. So the toilet economy is focused on access, and then there's circular sanitation and smart. So I'll give a quick example for each. So for access to sanitation services, where we see the opportunity, or the primary opportunity, I would say, for the private sector engagement is around brand partnerships. So looking at how can working with the private sector in terms of their supply chains, their brand presence, their relationships with consumers to enable the CapEx funding for public and community sanitation centers. And that's quite promising. We've seen in Africa, India, and Southeast Asia that model working. And a number, Unilever has been quite active in that and is interested. It is their business value. You know, the more people using toilets, the more people that need toilet cleaner, that need hand soap, that need toilet paper, etc. So it's not just CSR, it is really connected to their true core business, and we find that that is a key to unlocking this market. The second on circular sanitation, so this is what Art was just speaking about and their model does quite beautifully, is the private sector as long-term off-take agreements. So as purchasers of the fuel, the fertilizer, or the animal feed for their own industrial purposes. That gives stability to the sanitation business. It mitigates the risk for investors. They see that corporate relationship as something that is of great value, but then also that stability for their business growth. And then on smart sanitation, so this is both smart technologies in the sanitation value chain for operational efficiencies, but also consumer insights and increasingly public health. So looking at infectious disease tracking, antimicrobial resistance, drug use, et cetera, through a public sanitation system. This is much more nascent, but absolutely we're exploring and working with our private sector members of all sizes to see, is there value that can be fostered in the sanitation ecosystem through these opportunities.
Nice, nice. I'd love to keep talking, but I think we're already slowly...
We started a bit late.
We started a bit late, right?
I would say 10
okay.
minutes or so.
Keep going.
Okay, good. Then definitely let's still talk about finance. I'm also very happy to have my colleague Arno here. Now we hear there is all these finance problems, but this is exactly what Aqua for All is trying to work on. So I was going to ask you, since you're looking a lot at impact investors, hearing about all this discussion again on the value chain, where along the value chain, the sanitation value chain, do you think there is a potential to engage impact investors to scale enterprises?
I think that's a good question. And the role of impact investors in sanitation, I think it's twofold. I think it's, on one hand, they can provide liquidity to financial institutions that can again on-lend to water utilities, and really building that awareness of how a business model looks like of a water utilities, how they should do the risk, the evaluation of such loan proposals if they would come in. I think that strengthen that capacity from financial institutions and getting liquidity from impact investors to, well, well, to provide the capital that they again will lend to utilities. I think that's one way of working with impact investors. I think on an SME level, it's more for them to include sanitation companies inside their investment portfolio, and that also requires really understanding where the value comes from when assessing such business models. And as you rightfully said, it means maybe having amongst the value chain contracts in place with other corporates, because that really, that's what investors like, because they want to achieve impact, but they also want to see that on the longer term, enterprises are financially sustainable. And so I think that those two ways are really a bit where impact investors will come in. And there's also on what phase an enterprise is. If it's really an enterprise that just is scaling up or is a startup, I think it would require a different type of investor than where it's a more mature company. So you also have to understand the landscape of investors and who you want to speak with. And our work at Aqua for All, we try to de-risk investments. So what we try to do is maybe take on a riskier position within the financial structure of an enterprise or within the bank, so that it becomes more attractive for an impact investor to step in. So I think, again, that link with social investors or grant-based enterprises, catalytic enterprises, NGOs, etc. I think, I think that way you can kind of bundle everything together. But yeah, it requires some work and knowledge from the whole landscape, as I said. Yeah.
Yeah, it ain't easy. Last but not least, I'd still like to stay with you, Arno. Coming back to Aquias. Now, Aquias is a household solution. We have started working on the sanitation impact bonds, also on household sanitation. Could you reflect a bit on how you see evolving as a household solution, like that one from Aquias, with an MFI, and how that would impact the scaling pathway of an enterprise?
I think that's indeed an interesting example of where they can work together. And what you see with MFIs is that they're very used of lending to households or maybe to small, medium enterprises or micro enterprises. But the MFIs need to understand that their money is getting paid back. So they for example, in agriculture, you see that they're willing to lend, for example, for tractors, because they know that, well, the yield or crop yield will increase, and then the farmer is able to pay back. I think in the case of sanitation or toilets, it's a bit difficult for an MFI to assess, because it's a non-revenue generating asset, so to say. But it is still, you still see, for example, communities coming together and raising that money to buy these kind of toilets. And I think for MFIs to understand that they can, for example, pre-finance these type of solutions, I think that also makes it interesting for startups such as Akaya to work together with MFIs and see whether they can build a capacity on the MFI level and work together in a way that households can, for example, get their toilets pre-financed, and that way you kind of bundle a bit the value chain, and you make it also a more interactive business case for investors that want to step into the enterprise itself, because then you have this business contract in place between an MFI and an enterprise. So I think it also helps on household level for sanitation to also look at the MFI. I think that can be an interesting angle, to also just make it a more interesting business case.
Okay. Are we closing it off? I guess so, huh? Yeah, I think so.
We can continue, but then we're opening up a new chapter.
Yeah.
So I would like to thank you all, but not before the same as Aquias, to see if there's one burning question, because we have a sort of an online community around us, but especially the people here, to check out if there's one question that keeps you awake, that you would like to ask. I see already one there, so is there a more convincing hand on the other side? Oh, okay. Then the gentleman in the back, can I sort of ask you to maybe share your final question, maybe introduce yourself.
Hi, Michiel Slotema. I work for RVO. I coordinate the Sustainable Water Fund. It's also a public-private partnership. We have 42 projects in 24 countries, and then sort of what it's really nice to see these types of challenges programs, but I also wonder, you know, there's so many programs that are working on these types of things, and to learn from each other is really, you know, I've been doing this now for 20 years, and yeah, and it's such a crowded space as well. You know, I don't know how many newsletters I now get, but you know, how do we, you know, bring this knowledge together? How do we keep, you know, each program we're doing a knowledge, we have a knowledge component, but everyone else is also doing a knowledge component. I'm just, how do we talk to each other? How do we, bring this together to influence policy more strategically instead of all of us going from our own little islands onto this? You know, this platform is really useful, of course, you know, but how many other, you know, Stockholm was also, I mean, I didn't know which event to attend anymore, or even to get people to attend the event we organized. So yeah, maybe that's what keeps me awake is, you know, I know there's lots going on, and how do I learn, and how do I, I know it's a really...
Thanks a lot.
It keeps me awake as well. I mean, as an organization that is trying to, I think the pandemic and the climate crisis has also brought about I'm not sure what the right word is, but a transformation, I think, is sort of brewing in our sector in general. As we figure out how we plug into larger global conversations. I do think events like this hopefully can play a piece of that. And I mean, I would just say it's to us each in our daily roles to do our best we can to not duplicate efforts and read the newsletters we can and reach out and connect and partner wherever possible. But I would love to hear anyone else's answer because it keeps me up at night as well.
I think that in the countries and the cities we work in, we can work together more. And for example, the utilities, they're included in all kind of platforms, but I think when it comes to sanitation, there's often an urban sanitation plan lacking, where I think the utilities should be involved, especially when they're providing more and more water to their customers. Where does the water go? Then it's also part of their responsibility, also if it's not part of their mandate. They are part of this conversation, and I think the private sector and NGOs, different public entities should be present there.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps on the other side of the how do you say that, of the area. So I mean, I think for us, we've also been attending some of these events, and often we try to cut it down a bit because there's a lot of energy going into it. I think on the other hand, I think it's inevitable because everybody's trying to reach the same goal, and I think we should be less fair in wanting to solve it in a session like this or in a session tomorrow. I think there should be less fear also in funding initiatives, not just like ours, but like many, and there should be much more money spent in almost blindly. It's going to way too people are too scared to lose their money. You have to invest. I heard once that every investment required, or successful business needs at least 10 million to get there, to be a successful investment, or to be a successful company. So I think, and often it's look, yeah, okay, you get 100,000 for this, what's your profit, I think we should leave it alone a little bit, or not leave it alone, but you should look at it, but let it go a bit more, instead of trying to control everything. And perhaps, I mean, we've been working with RVO a lot, and it has been very helpful. But you make step by step, you make progress. Yeah, and I don't know, it's super complex, but I think, and then people start to connect with each other, and they learn from each other, and it takes time. It takes time, sorry.
I would like to sort of ask, I would like to thank everybody. I would like definitely thanks the panel here, Akia's there, and definitely the Vice Mayor of Amsterdam. And maybe as a final word, maybe also to Akia's for the Vice Mayor to close this session. Once more, thanks everybody for attending. I think the topic of sanitation is there. We need entrepreneurs, we need inspiring leaders, I think inspiring innovators, Akia's there. But I think maybe as the closing word also what Michiel, Ervio, mentioned as well, that there's different things at stake. And that could be communication, excitement, how to bring it together. And that's maybe also with Accenture, and the digital part, how to make our life easier to connect the dots. So maybe that's my final word. Can I ask you, Egbert, maybe to address your word? It's a bit...
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I don't even know if the people from Akias are still into our meeting. I see at least one person still there. From my side, congratulations with winning the challenge. I think you're doing a wonderful job, and you're doing it really in the spirit of Dr. Sarphati, is trying to be very practical, trying to reach out to communities, to people that really need a toilet, and that is the start of having a more hygienic lifestyle, more hygienic system, a more hygienic village area where you live. So you're working in the spirit of Dr. Sarphati, and we're trying to pass this on, and this is one of the challenges for us, that we share what we know and that we build on that, and this is something the panel has been doing from now on. It inspired me. We are working on our 5 annual sewage plan for the city of Amsterdam for the next years. So we may be working on completely different levels, and we may be still lacking, or we may be still a bit sad of the fact that after 150 years after Dr. Sarphati, we're still in a situation that basic sanitation in parts of this world is not granted. But bringing together everybody in meetings like this, having newsletters, having discussions with each other, will eventually bring sanitation to everybody. And you are doing this on a scale which inspired me as Akias. We're really happy that with the challenge and with the award that's given to you, you can upscale, and you can really prove your system. And let's hope that in the future others will win this challenge and will do the same in their respective countries. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for sharing with us.
Thanks again. I would like to conclude that this is not the finish, this is the start. There are a lot of things to bring together and to move on. Tomorrow there's an integrated leaders forum in which we make the statements of today also actionable. So we have 2 roundtables in which we bring the outcomes of today further. So I think that's, and then we hand it over to sort of Henk Ovink as our sort of climate water ambassador to bring it to the COP26. So for tomorrow, the outcomes of these tables are sort of flyers to bring further. And the Sarphati Sanitation Challenge is also to continue. So we would like to be that platform to share. But also in the next Amsterdam International Water Week, we would like to be here on stage to follow what Akias is doing and to invite new innovators to be on stage. And the other crucial thing is the positive thing about hybrid, that we meet otherwise every 2 years, but we will continue. I think that's the beauty of digital. So let's connect, let's work together, let's be a platform, and have a great evening. Thanks, Bara. See you online as well. But great, thanks. Hope to see you soon in Jordan, and have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thanks for your time.